We're talking about opening the lines of communication. If you need help hearing from God, we're going to give you help in the next Good News episode, so don't miss it.
Are you tired of hearing nothing but bad news? Tune into the good news of the gospel. Greg Fritz has been changing lives through the good news of the gospel for over 35 years. This good news will inspire, inform, and change you so you can live daily in all the promises of God. Welcome to Good News with Greg Fritz.
Hello, I'm Greg Fritz. Welcome to the Good News program. We're doing a series called Hearing God's Voice, and it has been it's been enjoyable for me. It takes me back to some experiences that I had many years ago, and it's just good to be reminded of these principles because you never grow or go too far that you don't need to hear from God. We all need to hear from God from time to time. We need correction and encouragement. We need direction. We need wisdom. And God has all of that and more as we put ourselves in a position to hear His voice. And we're going to talk about opening the lines of communication, but I want to tell you about three things. First of all, this is absolutely free. All of our teaching in the Good News messages are on this download. You can go to my website to the free download section and look for Hearing God's Voice. You can get it in MP3 audio, or you can get it on streaming video on demand. You could literally have these programs playing on your device before this one is over. And it's amazing, and you can listen to them, watch them over and over again. If you're more of a CD person and you'd like the actual physical CDs, I've made a series. It's 5 messages, over 4 hours of teaching. We've covered almost all of the material that we're doing on the program in these CDs, and you can have this for $24. We'll mail it to you. You can contact our ministry, call our phone number. It's 918-749-7744, or you can order it online on the product page of our website. And we have study notes as well. They're free. Just go to the free study notes section. You can download your study notes and have the outline of the entire teaching on hearing God's voice, including 17 divine direction scriptures that will help you immensely. It's worth it just to have those printed out so that you can read them in your prayer time. Very, very helpful. We're talking about opening the lines of communication, and I want to give you 2 principles, and we've covered one of them. And that is, be completely yielded to God's will. In other words, you decide, I'm going to follow God, and I don't even know where we're going. I'm going to do the will of God, and I don't even know what it is. But I choose right now. I love God, and I trust God, and I know He has my best interest at heart, and I'm choosing to do His will. Romans 12:1 says, present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. So it's just laying our life on the altar and saying, God, I want your will. And from that moment on, His will becomes right for you, and anything less than His will becomes wrong for you. And so that's fine. I'm glad God cares. Then number 2, be completely honest. So number 1, be completely yielded to God. No reservations. I'll do whatever you want me to do. But number 2, be completely honest. Honest with yourself and honest with God. Now, I cannot overemphasize this. We try to train our children, to be honest and tell the truth. But dishonesty has so many negative effects on your life. And I've gotten to the point now, and I'm going to give you some scriptures, but I truly believe if a person is a dishonest person, and Christians can be dishonest. Just because you love the Lord and you're born again doesn't mean that you can't be dishonest. It's possible. I just don't believe dishonest people can follow and hear God's voice. And here's why. Here's why. Just before you disagree, just hear me out. If a person is prone to be dishonest to other people, they're going to be dishonest to themselves. If you don't tell the truth to others, you're probably going to deceive yourself. And if you're apt to deceiving yourself, it's going to be very difficult at times to hear what God is saying. And I see this over and over again. People will pray about direction, and they'll convince themselves that God is telling them what they want to hear. And if that is where you are in your walk with God, you're constantly going to miss what He has for you. God's not always going to tell you what you want to hear. And you have to be honest enough to admit it. And that's really the bottom line. Dishonesty is a terrible trait, and it erodes our confidence in God, it erodes our confidence in other people, and it erodes our confidence in ourselves. There are times when the will of God is so different, and it's so unique, and it's so foreign to your thinking, that unless you can look on the inside and be completely honest with yourself, you'll talk yourself out of it. And so honesty is of utmost importance. I hope you're getting this. This is a key to hearing God's voice. You've got to be honest. Let me take you to the scripture. Psalm 51 and verse 6. Psalm 51 verse 6. And this is a little known psalm, but I've got it highlighted in my Bible because it has spoken to me for years and years. Here it is. Behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you will make me to know wisdom. Did you get that? You desire truth. God desires truth in the inward parts. He wants you to be honest. He wants you to tell yourself the truth. He wants you to tell yourself the truth. You've got to be truthful with yourself. There are times when you just aren't going to agree with what you sense God is telling you. And if you're not completely honest, you'll tell yourself it's not God. It's not God. Here's what God's saying. Oh, I've seen this over and over again. I've seen people trumpeting what God said. God said this, and God said that, and God's telling me to do this, and God's telling me to do that. And by the very sound of it, it sounds shallow. Now, I'm not the judge, but there have been times when I'm thinking, I'm not sure about that. Now, I'm not their judge, and I don't say anything, but it's like I've prayed and I've gotten God's will before, and I've begun to do that with fear and trembling, like, Lord, I could be missing you, but I truly believe this is what you're saying. I mean, I can't prove it, but I believe it's you, and if it's not you, help me, Lord. Help me get over it. Help me get through it, and help me get on the right track. I'm being honest, and I'm talking to God from my heart. And so it's just incredibly important. I'm going to read this again. He desires truth in the inward parts. So you got to be able to get quiet and look down on the inside and know you're being honest with yourself. Some people don't want to get quiet that long. They don't want to take that much time to look down on the inside. And in the hidden part, you'll make me to know wisdom. And there it is. There's the direction. When you get honest and have truth with yourself, then you'll begin to know wisdom, because you'll begin to discern what God is saying in your heart. Now, again, you may not agree with it. That's why Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is so important. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. There are times when your mind is going to argue with your heart, and this requires honesty. That's where honesty comes in. So there's two principles. First of all, you've yielded yourself to God. You've totally given your future to God. You say, God, I want to do your will, and I don't care what it is. I'm committed to you to do your will. Then number two, I'm honest. So when the direction comes, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to explain it away. I'm too honest. I'm too truthful. I want the truth. I don't know about you, but I want to do what I'm supposed to do. I don't want the whole world to encourage me and applaud me and compliment me if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. On the other hand, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I don't care if anybody likes it or not, or if anybody agrees with it or not, because I've worked this out between me and Him, and I believe that I'm doing what He told me to do. I could be wrong, but God knows, and I know that I believe this is what He wants me to do. Do you see what I'm saying? And I'll give you some personal examples, but let me show you this. Proverbs 19:21 says, this is very helpful. Proverbs 19:21, there are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord's counsel, that will stand. There are many plans, many ideas, many different options that you'll have when you're making a decision. And we're primarily, let's face it, we're primarily talking about life decisions, major decisions in your life. You want to make right choices. And God will lead you all along the way, but when we're talking about little things, they're far less encompassing or world-changing or revolutionary. But major decisions in your life can be surrounded with uncertainty. They can be filled with options and different ways and plans. But He promises us, nevertheless, the Lord's counsel will stand. In other words, thoughts and plans will come and go, but God's counsel, once God gives you His direction, it'll be there because it's in your spirit and it'll stand. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there the next day. And if you're honest about it, you'll recognize it. You'll identify it. You'll pray over it until you're convinced that this is God's will. It does sometimes take time, and that's fine. You have all the time you need to do God's will in your life. It's your life. Nobody can force you to do anything faster than you are prepared to do it. God will work with you in the time frame that you have and help you know what you need to know when you need to know it. But honesty is key. I had an experience, and I'll share this with you because a lot of the things that I've learned about direction came from this particular season in my life. I had been in Africa for a year, preaching all over East Africa. I had the time of my life. Came home, and I didn't know what to do next. I was all filled with vision and the Word, and I was ready to preach, and I did not know where to go. And so I began to pray and seek God, and I waited on God, and days turned into weeks, and it took a long, long time before I heard anything. And I learned so much about following God in this time, but honesty became crucial because for a long time I didn't hear anything. And finally, the Lord spoke to me, and He told me, go to Arkansas. Well, that was the last place that I wanted to go. Now, I don't have anything against Arkansas, and that turned out to be one of the greatest adventures of my life. I have a lot of great memories from there, but at that time, I just didn't want to go there. It was a small town. It was a small church. It was really not much of an opportunity. But I want to tell you this. There are times and seasons in your life where God is doing something other than what you're focused on. At that time, I was focused on numbers and reaching people and how much experience can I get and how many people can I reach. And God was doing something totally different. He was dealing with commitment and faithfulness and obedience and honesty and these things. And I was totally focused on something else. This happens so many times in life. But the thing that gets you through it is being led by God. You don't have to understand everything that God is doing in your life in any given season. But what you do have to do is listen to His voice and obey Him. If you'll do that, He'll lead you where He wants you to go. But you may not understand it at the time, and you probably won't always understand it. But if you're honest, and that's what it came down to, here I am praying for direction. I've already committed my life to God. I promise God, I will do your will. All you have to do is tell me what it is. I'll do it. I made that decision and I meant it. But I didn't know what it was. So I waited, and then it came. Go to Arkansas. And I didn't hear a voice, but it was down in my spirit. It kind of caught me off guard because one day it wasn't there and the next day it was there. And I thought, where did that come from? Go to Arkansas? Go to Arkansas. And I thought about it and I just dismissed it. I thought, that can't be God. And I kept praying and seeking the Lord, and it was there the next day. And it just kept, and so then I got to pay attention to this. And then it's like, oh no, Maybe God's wanting me. Oh, no, it can't be. And I spent time trying to talk God out of it. And I tried to talk myself out of it. And I tried to get rid of that sense. Here's the verse. There are many plans in a man's heart, but the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. I couldn't shake it. And then I tried to tell myself, well, surely God wouldn't do that. And even if He did, it's just not right. It just can't be right. It just can't be. I have been to Africa. I've been to Bible school. They don't even have a full-time position. They had a position, but you had to work a full-time job, and it was a free position. It's like be a youth pastor for free. Well, I could go anywhere and do that. Why Arkansas? I couldn't shake it. I prayed and prayed, and it stayed. So I had to come to a point, and I'll tell you, there are times in your life where you have to get to this place. It's not a bad thing. I wasn't being irreverent. I wasn't being rebellious. I was being honest. And if you're honest, you know the difference. God knew I was being honest. I would pray about it, and I would tell God why it shouldn't be, why we shouldn't do this. It's a bad idea. There's no opportunity, no jobs. I don't even know how I could survive. All of those things. And then I couldn't deny, go to Arkansas. The peace was on that. The unction was on that. Down deep in my spirit, it seemed like I should go there. And I prayed some more. I took my time. And I got to this place, and I encourage you to take time to get to this place. Sift through all of the voices and feelings and logic and come to this place, because I got there. And when I got there, I knew I was there. And here's where the conclusion I came to. After praying for probably weeks, I said, God, I don't understand it. I don't agree with it. I would never choose this, but I've prayed about it. You know I've prayed about it, and I'm honest with you, and I'm honest with myself. And before this day, I couldn't say this, but now I can. If I had to go to court, lay my hand on a Bible and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, I would have to say, I wouldn't want to say it, but I'd have to say, I believe God wants me to go to Arkansas. I'd have to say that. And I can't shake it. So I believe, Father, you're telling me to go to Arkansas. Now, I don't believe it's a good idea. I don't think it's going to work. I'll probably go die there. I don't know how I'll starve to death. There's no opportunity there. There's no people there. It's the smallest town I've ever seen. The town was 1,500. The church was 50. The youth group was 10. There's just nothing, Lord. But I believe you're telling me to go, and I want to do your will with all my heart. Now, I could be wrong. I'm honest enough to admit that I'm not infallible, and you are. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to go to Arkansas, and it's not going to work out, and I'll die, and I'll come to heaven, and I'll stand before you, and you'll know, and I'll know that I believed with all my heart that I was supposed to do this. And what could you say about it? At least you got somebody that'll do what they believe God's telling them to do. That's got to mean something. Now, if I'm right and you're wrong, I'll go there and die, and I'll come to heaven and say, I told you that it wasn't going to work. I told you it was going to come out bad, and it did. We should have never done it, but you told me to do it. Either way, I'm doing the right thing. Either way, I'm going to follow God. I was young, and I had opportunity, time to walk this out and see. And I told God, if you can communicate with me, you've got a partner, because I'm going to do what you tell me to do. If I believe it's you, and you can make sure that I believe and know that it's you talking to me, I am going to do what you tell me to do. And boy, I got to prove it. I loaded up my little U-Haul with all my old furniture, and I moved to Arkansas. And there was one miracle after another. And I have to say, looking back on it, it was one of the happiest times of my life, because there was no reason for me to be in that town, in that position, for 3 years. There was no reason for me to be there except God sent me there. God sent me to that little town. God sent me to that little apartment complex. God sent me there, and I watched God fill in all the blanks, make up every need, meet every need, bring people into my life. Some of them weren't even Christians, and they did things and said things and provided provision for me. It was an amazing experience. But it seemed like the last thing in the world that I ought to do, should do. In fact, when I was there, a friend of mine from Bible school who had graduated came to visit me and preached in the church. And while he was there, he looked at me, got me off to the side, and he says, "What are you doing here? This is the smallest town I've ever seen." He said, "You need to get out of this town and go build your ministry. Nobody knows what you're doing here. Nobody sees you here." And I said, "Well, God sees me. God sent me. And I'm not leaving it until God tells me to leave, because I'm following Him with all my heart." It takes extreme honesty to do that. You have to pray, and you'll have to struggle with your own mind, but you'll get there. You'll be able to tell yourself, "You know what? I'm not here to deceive myself. I mean business. And I believe that God is telling me to do thus and so." Whether you agree with it or not is immaterial. Whether it makes sense or not, that doesn't matter. I believe God's telling me to do this, and so I'm going to do it. And if you come to that conclusion, listen, you won't. Once you come to that conclusion, you're probably not going to hear anything else. Why? Because God got the message to you, and everything is contingent on you taking that next step. And there have been people that have been in a standoff like that for years. God's given them that step, and they are reluctant to take it, and communication has been stopped. Why? Because God got the message to you, and you haven't done anything with it. You've refused to act on it. So you need to go back and dig that back up and go revisit that and say, "Now, Father, I got to get back where I belong. What were you saying? What do you really want me to do?" And I'm going to be honest. And I'm going to admit it to myself. And if I don't know for sure, I'm going to tell you I don't know for sure. And if I don't know what to do, I'm going to tell you I don't know what to do. And I'm going to be honest about it. Oh, it removes so much of the anxiety and the uncertainty. Because listen, if I don't know the will of God, I tell God I don't know. And He knows I'm not trying to fool Him. I'm not trying to play games. I'm serious. I'm honest. And when I know the will of God, then I know that I know the will of God. And He knows that I know it. And He knows that I'm going to take this next step based on the knowledge that He told me to do this, and He's responsible for getting me through it. Oh, I'll tell you, He will be your partner. He will take up your cause. I can't tell you how many nights in Arkansas I went to sleep literally with a smile on my face. Why? Because I knew that I knew that I knew I was right where God wanted me to be. I was doing what God wanted me to do, and He was going to take care of me. Did you have big crowds? Never. Never had a big crowd. Did you make a lot of money? Nope. Did you get any partners? None. Not one. But I was right where God wanted me to be, and I was developing something more important than all those other things. I was developing a sense of commitment, faithfulness, dependency, honesty, obedience, faith in God. And really it formed the foundation that I've been operating on for the last 30 years. I wouldn't trade anything for it now. And there have been times since where the same process. God, now He'll tell you some things you want Him to do, but you got to pray about that too and say, "Now, Lord, I believe You want me to do this, but I want to do it. So I want to make sure this is You and not just me," and get totally honest. If you'll do that, you'll be able to discern what's God and what's not. And that's the most important information that any person on earth could have. To know the will of God, to hear God's voice on a continual basis, so that you're always in the center of His will for your life. I hope that's inspired you. We've finished our section here on opening the lines of communication. We're going to go on in our next session into an area where I'm just going to call it 2 reasons we don't hear His voice, and I'll give you a preview. 2 reasons we don't hear His voice. Number 1, He's not speaking. Number 2, you're not listening. Did you get that? Oh, it's going to be good. You don't want to miss that. Let me just remind you that this program is made possible by the support of our viewers. I do not have the budget to produce these programs. We try to do them as well as we can on as low a budget as we can, but it's very expensive. And so it takes the support of people and partners just like you. If you'd like to help us, we would love to have your support. You know, when's the last time you went to a restaurant and you ate a good meal, and at the end of the meal they said, you know what, you don't have to pay for this, just give whatever you want or don't give anything? Probably never. There was a Panera Bread that did that. They just made the fees for their food, they made it optional, and they went out of business. They should have opened it a Christian Panera, because Christians are such giving people. They make it possible for me to do this and offer it to the world for free. And that's the way I like it. I don't want to charge admission for the Word of God and the truths of God that we share every day on this program, but we do need to pay the bills. So if you can do something, if you could send a one-time gift to help us out, or if you want to be a partner, we'd love to have your partnership. New partners join every month. However, the partnership level and income has not reached the expense level yet, but it's getting there. So if you'd like to help make up that gap, we'd love to hear from you. Get my newsletter, sign up on our mailing list, call my number, 918-749-7744. If nobody answers, leave your name and address. We'll send you a newsletter. We'll send you a remittance envelope. If you're not comfortable giving online, you can put a check in this envelope and mail it back, or put your credit card information on here and send it to us and give. And that way, many of our partners and friends, they give through these remittance envelopes. And we'd be happy to get one to you. We just need your address. We'd love to hear from you today. I've got lots more good news programs planned. They're all in here and they're coming your way. So I can't wait to see you on the next show. Until then, may God's best be yours.
Coming up next on Good News with Greg Fritz.
Well, number 1 reason that maybe you're in prayer and you haven't heard God's direction, the number 1 reason is maybe He hasn't spoken yet. Did you know God's not going to speak just when you snap your fingers? That God's not going to tell you everything you want to know right when you want to know it? You say, why? Is He just stubborn? No, He knows what's best for you. He's going to show you what you need to know, and He knows when you need to know it. And believe it or not, there are things that you just don't need to know yet. There are things that you're better off knowing. I'll give you an example. Did you know nobody knows when they're going to die? Think about how different life would be if you knew the day you were going to die. Well, for one thing, you'd know when to get life insurance. There's just so many things that would change in your life if you knew that, so you're not going to know that. You're just not going to know all your life how long you're going to live.